Hello, everybody. Welcome to I Am Back at Work. We are excited to have you here and excited to have Sarela Bliman-Cohen here to present for us today about networking your way to a new job. I'm Mickey Feldman-Simon. I am the founder of I Am Back at Work. And before we get going and I introduce Sarela, I just want to make sure that everybody can navigate through the GoToWebinar panel, just in case you haven't been on a webinar before. So first of all, your webinar panel may look like the image on the right, which is when it's closed, or when it's expanded, the image on the left. And to open and close it, all you need to do is click on the orange arrow, and it will open and close the webinar panel. Now, if you can also move it out of the way so it's not on your it's not in the middle of your screen and covering the presentation, and you can just click at the top there and then drag it out of the way. Now, we will answer all of your questions in the last 5 minutes of the webinar, and to open the questions panel, you just click on that little arrow over there under the word questions, and then you type in your questions inside the blue rectangle. And again, we'll address your questions at the end of the webinar. Now I'm excited to introduce Sarela. Sarela is a master networker. She's got a LinkedIn network of 2,100 contacts and growing. She has developed a system to networking, from finding the right places to meet people to how to approach them. As part of her work as a product management executive, Sarela is often needed to meet and interview potential customers. Along the years, she expanded her interviewing skills to develop her large network, which she utilizes when she needs to approach people. She has used her network to find new jobs, help other people connect to companies of interest, and for market research. She loves connecting people and sharing her experience on how to network and approach people effectively. We are excited to have Sarela here today to help you network your way to a new job. Passing it over to you, Sarela.
Nikki, thank you for the introduction, and hello everyone. I'm very excited to be here and share with you my experience. As you probably know, over 80% of people find their jobs through networks. I will be sharing my experience, and I will be turning off my camera so that we can focus on the presentation. And I will be sharing my experience and, as Mickey said, the system I developed to network your way to a new job. Let's start with the definition of networking. So what is networking? Interact with other people to exchange information and develop contacts, especially to further one's career. And the emphasis here is on developing contacts. And why is that so important? Because what is our goal? Our goal is to talk with as many people as possible to increase the chance of meeting someone who knows of a company that may need someone with your skills. I'm sure some of you are thinking to yourself, it's been a while since I've been in the workforce. Where do I start? What do I do? How do I get started with networking? Well, each one of us has what I call networking circles. Those are comprised of these three circles: people who like you and know you, people who like you, and people who know you. Let's look at each circle. The most inner circle, people who like you and know you, are people that have worked with you in the past. You have been friendly with them. Hopefully you've kept in touch with them. And those are people that when you reach out to them, will be willing to help you. I'm sure some of you are thinking to yourself, it's been a while. Should I really reach out to someone that I haven't been in touch with for a few years? I'll share some stories from my experience. A week ago, someone asked me for an introduction that required me to contact someone by the name of Alan. When I reached out to Alan, he called me back and said to me, I haven't seen you in about 3 years, but as soon as you send me the email, it was certain that I will be helping you. So people like to help. So don't hesitate in contacting these people that have been part of your past. The second circle are people who like you. This is also called your personal circle. Example for people who like you could be family, could be friends, neighbors. If you go to church or synagogue, members of your church or your synagogue. If you volunteer somewhere, members that volunteer with you. They do not know you on a professional basis, but they know you on a personal basis. A few months ago, I was working outside when a neighbor walked by. We engaged in a conversation, and she and I discussed the fact that I was looking for some consulting opportunities. She then went home and talked with her husband, who is a COO of a marketing company in this area, and a few weeks later, I was there talking with their VP. So don't underestimate the power of your personal network. The outer circle are people who know you. When you've worked, I'm sure you came across many people, not necessarily from your department and not necessarily that worked closely with you, but people who know you. They may have been from marketing or HR or legal or customer service. Those people, hopefully, you are in touch with them or have a contact of those people, and you can reach out to them and ask for help. Again, even if it's been a few years. A few weeks ago, I reached out to another colleague of mine that I worked with about 15 years ago. I needed an introduction to someone, and he didn't think twice. He introduced me to that person. So again, remember that you know more people than you currently think of. There are several types of networking. Let's start with looking at individual networking. This is when you're going to meet someone one-on-one. This is also sometimes called informational interview. Informational interview because you're in a way interviewing a person and you're trying to get as much information about that person as possible. Things about the position the person has, the industry the person is in, and if you're trying to break back into that industry, information that can help you achieve that. Let's go and look at it step by step. So you've picked someone from your inner circle. I would start first with my inner circle and email a person and ask to meet for coffee. I always recommend meeting for coffee because that is not a big time commitment on the other part. It's usually 20 to 30 minutes, and most people are happy to meet with you for a short period of time. Provide a brief explanation for the meeting. Why do you want to meet the person? Let's look at an example. Here's an email that I sent to Mike, who again is from my inner circle. He knows me and he likes me. Dear Mike, how are you? I'm reaching out to see if you would be open to meeting me for coffee at your convenience. I have decided to return to the workforce and would like to seek your advice on the steps I should take. Please let me know when you may be available. I look forward to catching up with you. Thanks, Sorella. Because Mike knows me, he will respond and we will probably set up some time and meet. However, it may be a little easier if you give them a time frame. So saying something along the lines of, are you open to meeting for coffee the next week or the following one? So we emailed the person and asked to meet for coffee, and we provided an explanation for the meeting. However, sometimes you don't hear back. I would wait a week, then go find the email that I sent and forward it again to the person. Occasionally, you get an email, you know the person, you look at the subject and you say to yourself, I'll get back to her. Time goes by, and then 30 emails later, your email is off the screen, and the person completely forgot about it. So forwarding the email with a reminder is a good idea. I would try at least 3 times before I give up. And if someone doesn't respond after you've tried 3 times, just look for someone else. Don't take it to heart. It's not your fault. Just look for someone else. Next is to pick a time and location that is convenient. And when I say convenient, I mean convenient to the person you're meeting. I've had situations where people said to me, I can meet you at my office at 7:30 in the morning. That was the only time that was available to meet. I met them at their office. Another person asked me to meet them at a Starbucks near the train station where they worked. where they had to take the commuter into their work. I met them at 7 a.m. Another lady could only meet me at 6:30 in the evening. So I took the necessary steps to make it easy and be as flexible as possible so that I can meet that person. Then you want to set up an invite with location and phone numbers. Before I started doing that, I would get really excited when people said to me, I can meet you in 2 or 3 weeks. I had an email, so I assumed that they had put it in their calendar. I would drive over only to find out that the person forgot or the person got called to a meeting last minute and send me an email, but of course I was driving so I couldn't see it. I have since improved, and now I send them an invite so it's on their calendar. I get their cell phone, I provide my cell phone, because if something happens to them, I definitely want them to let me know they cannot make the meeting to save me the ride. And on my side, it could be that I'm sick, I have a sick child, or I'm stuck in traffic. So for whatever reason, you want to make sure you both have their cell phone and provide yours. So assuming everything went well, we get to the meeting, and now it's time to provide a quick background about yourself and ask for assistance in connecting to people or companies of interest. So let's again look at some sample questions. Hopefully before you connected with a person, you had a chance to look at their LinkedIn profile and know something about that person. As a first step, I try an icebreaker. I try some small talk. How are the holidays? Did you get any snow the last storm? How's your daughter doing in college? Then I move on to the reason I wanted to have the meeting with a person, asking them questions about themselves. How long have you been with your company? What do you like about your role? What don't you like about your role? It's important to find out what people like and dislike about their role, especially if you're trying to break into a new position. What do you like about the industry? Most people love talking about what they do, so usually these go over very well. Now it's time to turn it over to you. For someone who has been away for a few years, what would be the best way to get into similar companies? Things have changed and perhaps you need to acquire new skills. Are there any particular skills that I should consider acquiring? At a certain point during the meeting, after about 25 minutes, I would stop and ask the person if it's okay to continue. Usually, as I said, meetings are 20 to 30 minutes, but sometimes you're having such a great conversation that it may extend. So be cognizant of their time and just ask them if it's okay to continue the conversation. Do you know of anyone else in your network that I should talk to? Would you be open to making an introduction? And the goal is to get 2 or 3 names of people that can assist you. So you start with the people that you know, and you're trying to build your network. For each person you meet, you want to have 2 or 3 names, and this way, if you think about it like a tree trunk, you're starting to branch off. So you're growing your network from each person you meet, 2 or 3 names from each of those people, 2 or 3 names, and before you know it, you will have hundreds of people connected to you. After the meeting is over, send a thank you note and ask for introductions to the people mentioned. And last, send a brief paragraph about yourself that could be forwarded. Before I show you an example, this is really important because you want to make it easy for the person to introduce you to people. If they have a paragraph about yourself, not only is it the best representation because you wrote it, but you've also made their life easier because they don't have to sit down and figure, what do I write about this person? So let's look at an example. Mike, it was great meeting with you this past Tuesday. The information and suggestions you provided were very valuable. Thank you. During our meeting, you suggested that I talk with a couple of your colleagues, and here you will list the names and the companies that you discussed in that meeting. Here is a brief paragraph about myself you can forward. So here's an example of my background. I usually recommend 3 to 5 bullet points. However, if you prefer to write a paragraph, that is okay. Try to keep it short so it makes it easier for the person to forward it and for the person receiving it to review it. And at the bottom, I would provide a link to my LinkedIn profile. If you do not know what a LinkedIn profile, you should check the other webinars at I Am Back at Work to get familiar with LinkedIn and what a LinkedIn profile is. Now, in some situations, people are extremely busy and really cannot meet you in person. I have done some phone conversations with people. That is okay. It's not best. I prefer face-to-face, but as I said, in some situations, if only all you can get is a phone call, go ahead and do the same, use the same sample questions and the same things that we described for individual networking. Next is group networking. This is where most people feel uncomfortable. It's pretty intimidating to go into a room full of strangers. My suggestion would be to go with a friend. That takes a little bit of the edge off. But let's also look at steps that you should take when going to a group networking. First, you need to find events in your area that are of interest to you and attend them. And I will be giving some examples further in the presentation on where to find events. Next is to have your business card handy and you need to be ready to introduce yourself. I will also provide an example of a business card and provide information on how to create one if you do not have one. Walk over to an individual or a group and introduce yourself. When you are in an event like this, I usually look for another person who is alone, or at most 2 people. And then I would walk over and try and introduce myself. I know that when people approached me when I was alone in an event where I didn't know anyone, it made me feel really nice. So I think it would be the same way when you go to someone and introduce yourself. So you give your name, your profession, and what you're looking for. You want to engage in a brief conversation, find a little bit about their background and any interesting facts. So let's look at some sample questions. What brings you to this event? Have you attended similar events in the past? What do you do? Where do you work? And hopefully at this point, the person will turn around and ask you about yourself. And this is your opportunity to give your elevator pitch. Then you want to ask for positions or companies that they may be aware of and may need people with your skills. You want to keep the conversation brief. The reason being is that in most of these places, there are main events. There usually is a lecture or a panel, and networking is only about 20 to 30 minutes. Your goal is to get 2 or 3 names in each event, so try and keep the conversation brief. At the end, you want to exchange business card and suggest you connect on LinkedIn. When you have the opportunity, it could be during the event or as soon as you get home, write on the back the event you attended, so then when you send a connect request on LinkedIn, you can make a reference to where you met that person. Also, as you grow your network and you start having hundreds of contacts, you will not remember how you met those people. So when you go into LinkedIn, there is a way to tag them. So make sure you tag them based on where you met them. And then you move on to the next person and repeat. And as I said, the goal is to meet 2 to 3 new people at each event. This is a topic that I think is interesting, how to disengage. Sometimes you are standing with a person and the conversation goes on, and you're saying to yourself, I would really like to wrap this up. You've exchanged the business cards and it's still going. Most of these places usually have food or drink, so excuse yourself by having to grab something to eat or drink or any other reasonable excuse, and then move on to the next people. So here is a sample of a business card. This is my personal business card. The most prominent thing is my name, and then next to it, I decided to highlight my degree. I'm in the high-tech industry, and so it's important to people to know that I have a technical background. I've seen people put down MBA degrees. I've seen people put down certificates that are important to their industry. So if you have a skill or a certificate that you would like to highlight, it's okay to put it next to your name. However, it's not a must. It's sufficient to put just your name. Underneath, I would put my profession. You'd be amazed how many business cards I got from people that just had a name and contact information, and I had no idea what they do. So make sure you have your profession listed. And then somewhere on the card, you want to have your contact information, your phone, your email, and in my case, I have a website, so I put my website, but you do not have to have a website. It is sufficient to put a link to your LinkedIn profile on your business card. And where do you get business cards? The most known one is Vistaprint. You could probably get 250 cards for about $10. You can also create some and go to Staples to print them. There's another company called Moo. There are others I'm sure that I'm not familiar with, but it's very easy. A lot of them have templates that make it very, very simple. So make sure you have business cards. Where do we find events? I usually look at these examples in these websites: meetups, professional associations, LinkedIn groups, and Eventbrite. For those that are not familiar with Meetup, this is their website. You sign up, you provide your location and your interest, and they will in return will provide you with ad hoc meetings that are happening in your area. There's pretty much a meetup for anything that is of interest. I've seen groups that go hiking, skiing, biking, art, knitting, painting, technology. Any interest, you're very likely to find a meetup that happens in your area with that interest. They send me usually a weekly digest, so when you sign up, you can set that up. Professional associations. You're probably familiar with some associations that have to do with your profession. I happen to be in product management. The Boston Product Management Association has a website, and on their page is the next event and where it's taking place. LinkedIn groups. You can sign up to about 100 LinkedIn groups. You're probably going to look for groups that have some interest or similarities to your profession. Even if you're looking at mine, we can see that I have a lot to do with product management. People usually post events that are happening on those LinkedIn groups. There's some conversations that go on, and you can also increase your network by connecting with some members of those groups. Eventbrite, I'm sure you've used it in the past. Again, based on your location, Eventbrite will send you a digest of things that are happening in your area. It doesn't have to do anything with your interests, it just has to do with location. So as you can see, I'm in Massachusetts. It's offering me a National Career Fair in the Boston area, a networking event, and a salsa festival. And at this point, I'd like to turn this back to Mickey and open this to questions.
Hi everyone, thank you Sarela for the very informational webinar, and please type in your questions if you have any at all. We'll give you a couple of moments to do that. I had a couple of comments as well. Sarela mentioned having your business cards, and again today it's very easy to create your own business cards, but always make sure to take the business card from the person that you're talking with, because that gives you the lead and the ability to follow up with them and not just wait for them to follow up with you. So, any questions, anybody? Please, please type them in now. So I don't see any questions at the moment. I do want to invite you all to our other webinars. We have webinars on updating your resume, optimizing your LinkedIn profile, even working out what to wear to your next job interview. So visit us again at I'm Back at Work. And thank you very much to Sarela.
Thank you, Nikki.